Okay, we're continuing with this book here, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. Now we're on the letter B. Next speaker we're going to do here is Samuel Blumenfeld. He's an educator from the USA. He lived from 1927 to 2015. He's got some good things to say. So actually, first of all, I'm just going to make a comment on the proles, on why the proles get tricked so much and treated so badly. It's because, number one, most proles, in my experience, they think that things happen just because they happen. That's sometimes true, but very often it's not true. Very often there's a powerful person or a powerful group of people, billionaire or something, or big company, and they say, we want this to happen. So they put tons of money into making something happen, and they do it through institutions, foundations, or whatever you want to call them, and they make it happen. And so the average stupid person goes, oh, well, I guess that just happened. That's just a coincidence. No, it's not. Most big things, they happen because some powerful rich person forced them to happen. And you need to know that, because if you don't know that, you'll constantly just think and do stupid things. The second thing you have to understand is, statistically speaking, probably no one cares about you. Statistically speaking, probably rich and powerful people probably not only don't care about you, they probably don't like you. That's an important point, because the average person thinks, oh, the system likes me. That's a big mistake. If you think the system likes you and you walk into a hospital, they're going to empty out your wallet very quickly. You have to say to yourself, okay, this is a grown-up world. What can the hospital do to benefit me for my condition? Or if it can't do anything, then stay away from the hospital. But, whatever. You go to a used car place, they're going to try to sell you a car. You go anywhere, they're going to try to take your money. That's just how it is. I say these things because unless you realize, like the average person, if you say, what is the purpose of school? They'll say to educate children. And that's not true. School does not educate people. School sort of like brain, washes them, okay? How much do you remember from grade school or high school? Almost nothing. About the only thing I'll remember was, I remember how to type, and I remember one teacher who was nice to me in English literature, and I enjoyed reading some books and talking to them about that. That's about it. Okay, most of it was a waste of time. Okay, so with that in mind, we can start talking about these educators. And by the way, I was super interested in education. I read tons and tons of books on the subject. I've actually written on the subject quite extensively. So Samuel Blumenfeld, first of all, he says, well, they finally have what they wanted. They have succeeded in their efforts to rid the American schools of independent intelligence. Yes, that's true. The plan to dumb down America was launched in 1898 by the socialist John Dewey, by taking over the public schools and destroying the literacy of millions of Americans. The plan has been so successfully implemented that half of American adults are functionally illiterate. And now, do you understand why that statement is a joke? Because it's way more than half. Okay? I talk to lots of doctors all the time. Most doctors I know, they don't ever read. They never read. They don't read any books. They always say, well, they're busy because their jobs exhaust them. Medical jobs make doctors work long hours. They always get the doctor to sign a contract, then they keep adding to his workload, and it's a pain in the ass to change jobs. So most doctors are overworked and kind of exhausted. That's number one. Number two, most female doctors, in my experience, and a lot of male doctors, they once they're done working, they're tired, and quite often the women have more home responsibilities and child responsibilities than the man does. Because I know lots of them, they'll always say they're too busy, they don't have any time to read. Men don't really care about their houses as much as women do, because the guys usually figure, it's really the woman's house. Okay, if we get divorced, she's going to keep it. She's home more than I am with the kids. It's sort of her house. Okay, and men, we just don't care if things are clean or not. We'll clean up our room, or wash our car if we want to attract a woman, but other than that, we really don't care. Women tend to like things to look nice, so that takes time though. Okay, let's see. The method of achieving this was simply by changing the way children are taught to read in schools. The utopians got rid of phonics and imposed the look-say, whole-word method that forces children to read English as if it were Chinese. Okay, so that's what I think is also kind of funny. They deliberately choose the method that's proven not to work and often causes dyslexia or learning disabilities. Phonics is the way to learn. It's relatively easy to learn to read with phonics. I had a brother who was dyslexic, okay, and he had a hard time in school until they had the spell checker computers and stuff, and then he later on was really bright and did real well, but he had a hard time for a long time. Okay, Dewey stated that the only way to undermine capitalism was to get rid of primary school emphasis on high literacy and individualism. Yeah, there was still individualism when I was young. It's being destroyed and pushed out, but I can remember things like when I went to the pool, there's a big sign over the waiting area while you're waiting in line to go inside. Dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone. Dare to have a purpose, dare to stand alone. Dare to have a purpose, dare to make it known, that sort of thing. It was good. I liked it. It was much more macho and masculine when I was young. And the whole country is being feminized. I think that's to make it easier. Okay, to control. Anyways, Dewey stated that the only way to undermine capitalism was to get rid of primary school emphasis on high literacy and individualism. To Dewey, the greatest obstacle to socialism was the private mind that seeks knowledge in order to exercise its own private judgment and intellect. High literacy gives the individual the means to seek knowledge independently. So they don't want that. They want everybody so stupid and conformist that they just accept whatever they're told. And that's what I think is funny. You know, the average stupid parent thinks they send their kid to school to get an education when the goal of the school is to make sure their kid never gets educated. Homeschoolers are way better. If you go to the Catholic schools have pretty lousy teaching, pretty lousy education, really about the same as the public schools, but the difference is the behavior is far superior to the public school. The adults are in charge in the public school. The kids are in charge the adults are in charge in the Catholic schools. The kids are sort of in charge in the public schools. That leads to chaos and bad behavior. Okay, Blumenfeld continues. The easy portability of a book is what makes it the most user-friendly format for knowledge ever invented. Yeah, you can read a book when you're in the bathroom on the loo. You can carry it with you anywhere. Some people like their cell phones, but you don't really want your cell phone with you everywhere. You really want your cell phone in your hands while you're on the loo? I don't think so. Okay, what really imperils book reading is not the internet, but the public schools that are dumbing down our citizens so that they cannot read books. What I've seen is that most people have such a terrible experience when they're a freshman in high school from reading, those terrible books that they're not ready for. Julius Caesar, The Mockingbird, Great Expectorations, Catcher in the Rye. Those are terrible books. And when a person reads those, and Huckleberry Finn, those are like awful books to make a first-year high school kid read. They're miserable, okay? And once a kid reads that stuff, they figure reading is just a painful, miserable experience and a waste of time. So they don't get anything out of it, Okay, next one is Bob Bly. He's a copyright writer, and I read tons of stuff on writing because, I wanted to be an author myself. I've written like 20 books, over 20 books. Bob Bly, positioning demonstrates how that product differs from the competition. In every book proposal, I now include a strong statement that defines the book's position in the marketplace. Draw an analogy between the proposed book and something that will form a familiar, favorable image in the editor's mind. Our proposal for our book was called The Strunk and White of Technical Writing, which instantly communicated the key appeal of the concept. Prolific authors write as expert authors, not as journalists or journalists. Fast writing is good writing. Write short articles and books because that way you will produce more. Recycle your material. When you write as if you were talking to the reader one-on-one. You write quickly, and when you're writing quickly, you're writing productively. Teach a course. Words written that are intended to be spoken must sound like conversation if they're going to sound good. So anyways, that's decent advice. He's not the best writing teacher, but he had a few good things to say. Okay, this one from Jean Bodin from the 1500s. The study of history is the beginning of wisdom, or the beginning of political wisdom. So yeah, and a lot of people have made that same observation, like Napoleon. Napoleon said, the best thing to study is history. That's the true psychology of human behavior, the true study of human behavior. And, everybody's got their own. In the Bible, fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Socrates would say the proper naming of terms is the beginning of wisdom. Aristotle would say controlling your emotions before a conversation, that's the beginning of wisdom. And there's other ones. So that's it for today's quotes. Hope that was helpful.